Decatur Public Library. Thanks for having us for your Tales and Tales program. We are the education team here at the Alabama Wildlife Center. My name is Lauren.
And I'm Andrew. And today you guys are going to get to meet some of our feathered friends that we work with, our raptors. But first, please watch this video and learn a little bit more about the Alabama Wildlife Center and our mission. Unfortunately, not every bird that comes in our center is able to be released. Sometimes they have issues that are beyond our control, injuries that may have already healed improperly prior to arriving. And for those birds, they can have the opportunity to become an education ambassador with the center. They live here with us for the rest of their life, and they are essentially our co-workers and great conservation tools to help explain how we as humans can help to protect them and other members of their species. And so without further ado, please enjoy meeting some of our permanent resident education ambassadors.
Starting out is Emily with our barn owl.
This is our barn owl. Barn owls are my personal favorite owl that is native to North America. These guys are really, really amazing birds, and I'm excited to talk to you about them. So they live in every state in the contiguous United States of America and Canada. These guys are extremely common birds, and they are, like I said, native to every state. She actually, unlike most of the birds that we get, she came to us as an egg. Somebody found a barn owl nest in a deer stand and brought it here. There were 5 eggs. And we normally, when we get eggs, they don't always hatch, but we put these eggs in the incubator, and surprisingly, all 5 of them hatched. It was very exciting. There were 5 babies, of which she was 1, 4 males and 1 female. She was the only female. The 4 males were okay, they were healthy, but she was born with scoliosis.
Scoliosis is an unnatural sideways curvature of the spine or the backbone.
And that is why we cannot release her. So if you look at her, if you see this little lump right here that's on her back, that's not supposed to be there. That is a result of her back injury. And now that she's flying, this is pretty good. You can see her tail. You can see how short her tail is compared to the rest of her body. Her body is very short and stocky, and it's not supposed to be that way. That is a result of her injury. So that's why she's with us. She has scoliosis. She cannot fly at all. She is non-releasable because of that. The moral of her story is please don't touch bird eggs and only pick them up and bring them to a rehab facility if you know that the parents are no longer with us. Let's look at her. So you can see, this is very good view. You can see her breast right there is very spotty. It's a kind of darker than you would think of for a barn owl, and her face is very rosy. This is because she is a female. Now there is sexual dimorphism in barn owls, meaning that you can tell the difference between a male and a female. That is not very common in raptors, but with barn owls it does exist. So she's a female, so she's got the spotty breasts and the rosy face. A male of her species would be almost completely white on its face and on its breast. They are very just stark, ghostly, like sheet white, whereas the females are much more rosy. Barn owls, as opposed to other owls, cannot hoot. When you think of an owl, you think of them going like hoo hoo, but barn owls have very undeveloped vocal cords. They are one of the few owls that, in North America at least, can't really make that hooting sound. They can really only scream. This is not a noise that I feel like a human can replicate. It is quite something. They have these horrible screams that they make instead of hooting. Now, imagine that it is the year 1600 and you don't have electricity and you live on a farm and it is the middle of the night and you hear screaming in your barn. So you go grab your kerosene lamp and you walk out to your barn and you open the barn doors and this big white thing flies at you going, "Rah!" What are you guys going to think that is? Because a lot of people would think that that is a ghost. And that is why a lot of our ghost stories actually come from these barn owls. They make a kind of scary screaming sound, and they're very white, and they fly at you. And people often, back in the day, would think that these guys were ghosts, and so a lot of ghost stories come from barn owl sightings. Another place that barn owls like to hang out that causes people to think that they have seen ghosts is graveyards. These guys really like wide open spaces, not a lot of trees, they like tall grass, and so graveyards are a place that they like to hang out and look for food. And so if you go into a graveyard in the middle of the night and you see that white screaming thing flying at you, you're gonna think that is a ghost. These guys are the least common owl that we have in Alabama, not because they are rare or endangered. They're actually one of the most common species of owl in the entire United States. We just don't have the habitat here in Alabama that can support a whole lot of them. These guys really like wide open plains and like tall grass. They like farmland a lot, hence they live in barns, which is why they're called barn owls. And we just don't have a whole lot of that habitat here in Alabama. 77% of Alabama is forested, just like all of this behind me, and that's not their favorite habitat in the world. So we have more barred owls than anything else, and these guys are the least common that we have here. But they are extremely important parts of our environment. Unlike the other owls in Alabama, these barn owls have very specific diets. Most of our owls are kind of generalized, which means they'll eat a wide variety of things. These guys really, for the most part, stick to rodents. They don't really eat a whole lot of other things other than rodents. I'll tell you guys what she just did in just a second. That was pretty cool. So they really don't eat anything besides rodents for the most part. There are exceptions. And that's why they're so important to the environment. These guys are one of the largest, most important predators of mice and rodents that we have in the entire United States. These guys can eat thousands of rodents per year. A single barn owl can eat 1,000 or so rodents per year, and two barn owls with babies can eat even more. And that's why we really need to keep them around, because rodents are one of the #1 vectors of disease that we have in the entire world, and they're also responsible for billions with a B of crop damage throughout the world as well. And so the more rodents that are eaten by our owls and snakes and bobcats and coyotes, the healthier we as humans will be. So these guys are a very, very important part of the environment, and it's very, very cool that they eat so many rodents and keep us healthy. So let me tell you what she just did. You guys probably saw her going like, bleh. So here's what she has. This is an owl pellet. So I was just talking about what she eats, so it's very fortuitous that she cast it while I was talking. So when these guys eat something, this goes for all owls and hawks and falcons, what happens is when they eat something, they cannot digest the fur or the claws and the bones and things like that, and so because they can't digest it, it needs to come back up. And so that is called casting, and birds of prey cast these pellets like I showed you before. These are very cool because what you can do is you can take tweezers and you can tear them apart, and all of the bones in here will, for the most part, with the exception of the skull, be whole. And you can reconstruct what the bird ate. So that is very cool. And these are actually really important for 2 reasons. For us as the handlers of these birds, these casts are really important because we go into their enclosures every day and look for them, because if there are casts, it means that they ate. And we can also look at them and be sure that there's nothing in here that we did not feed them. So we can be sure that they're eating what they're supposed to be eating. And then secondly, scientists use owl pellets for research, so that this is the best way to find out what they're eating, is they can take these apart and they can see what the bird in the wild eats. So that's really cool that she did that while I was talking to you guys.
Alright, so now Emily is going to talk to us about how owls can turn their head around and why they need to do that with Kusa, our barred owl, and how owls hunt their food with our Eurasian eagle owl.
Can owls turn their head all the way around? And spoiler alert, the answer is no. Owls cannot turn their head all the way around. No animal with a spine with bones can do that. They do have bones in their neck, which means that they cannot turn at 360 degrees. They can't do this like you see in the cartoons. They can't do any of that because they do have bones in their neck. However, owls can definitely give you the illusion that they are turning their head all the way around, and here's how they do that. I want you to guess how many neck bones you have. All right, did you guys guess how many neck bones you have? Owls have twice as many neck bones as you have. So you have 7 neck bones, and Kusa has 14 neck bones. And that's what allows them to give you the illusion that they're turning their head all the way around. So because they have so many neck bones, because they have 14, they can turn their head 270 degrees. Now that's not 360, but it's a lot farther than you can turn your neck. So you can turn your neck from shoulder to shoulder. That's 180 degrees across your body. An owl can look straight ahead, turn its head all the way around, and look over its other shoulder. It can't complete that circle, but it can look over its opposite shoulder and turn its head that far, and that is how they give you the illusion that they have turned their head all the way around. So why do they do that? Why do they turn their head all the way around like that? Like, it's cool that they can, but why do they do it? And the answer to that is because their eyes are so large. So if you look at Kusa here, a lot of people look at our owls, Kusa included, and they say, oh my gosh, his eyes are so big and so beautiful. And that's true. Owls have really big eyes. Their eyes are so large compared to their skull that you're actually looking at the smallest part of his eye. Let me get closer again. This is actually the smallest part of Kusa's eye. An owl's eye is shaped like a light bulb, and you're looking at the part that screws in. The big part of the light bulb that lights up is in the back of his head. These guys have such large eyes so that they can see really well at night. But because their eyes are so large compared to their skull, they cannot move their eyeballs. They're fixed in place. So you can like roll your eyes, you can move your eyeballs around, you can look around you without moving your head. Owls can't do that. So in order for them to see anywhere that's not straight ahead, they have to turn their entire neck in order to see anywhere that's not right in front of them. So that is why they are constantly turning their head all the way around like that and looking around themselves, because that's the only way they can see anything that's not straight ahead of them. So this is a Eurasian eagle owl. He's the largest owl in the world. I want to talk about how owls hunt. Owls don't actually use their eyes for hunting hardly at all. They use their ears. Now, to squash a misconception, you see these tufts on the top of his head. Those are not his ears, they are just feathers. I wouldn't do this, but you could get scissors and clip them off and they would grow right back. They're just feathers. And they are for camouflage so that his prey items can't see him. So his ears are actually behind his eyes. So if you look at his eyes, their ears are like right there. So his ears are about right here, right behind his eyes, and they are giant holes in their head. Now we have external ears, birds do not. Birds don't have this external flap of skin around their ears. If you were to push all of those feathers back, you would see a big hole in their head, and that hole is their ear, and their ears are so large that you can shine a flashlight in them and see the back of their eyeball. It's really incredible. You can see inside their head through their ears because their ears are so big. Their ears are also asymmetrical, so they have one that's a little bit higher than the other, and that helps them pinpoint their prey, helps them know exactly where their prey is. They can hear a lot better than we can. So these guys have really fantastic hearing. All owls can hear so well that they can hear a mouse tunneling under about a foot of snow, and they can hear a mouse's footsteps on top of leaves from about half a mile away. It's really, really incredible.
All right, now that you've met some of our nighttime or nocturnal birds, it's time to meet some of our daytime or diurnal birds, starting with our red-tailed hawk and ending on our vultures.
Hey guys, it's Emily again with the Alabama Wildlife Center. So, first things first, our red-tailed hawk is with us because she was hit by a car. And her right side, her right eye, she's completely blind over here. On this side, you can see that she responds to my hand. She can see out of her left eye, but her right eye, the retina, is completely detached. So her pupil works and responds to light, but her retina is detached, which means that her eyeball cannot transmit that information that she's seeing to her brain. So because she is blind in one eye, she has a lot of depth perception problems. And she really cannot catch her own food in the wild properly because these guys really strongly rely on their eyesight for catching food. It's extremely important for them that they have both of their eyes. And so we cannot release these guys if they've only got one good eye. And that's why she's with us at the Alabama Wildlife Center as an education animal, because if we released her, she wouldn't be able to catch her food effectively. Now there is something that you can do to help prevent these animals, hawks, owls, and all kinds of other animals from getting hit by cars. And the answer is actually don't drive. It's not the cars that are the issue. It's the reason that the animals are coming to the side of the road in the first place. And the reason that animals really congregate anywhere, any type of animal, is food. And what's attracting these guys to the side of the road is food. The rats and the mice and the raccoons and things that they eat, those animals are coming to the side of the road because people have littered and they have thrown their apple cores and their hamburgers and all their trash, their food waste on the side of the road. That attracts her food. So mice and rats and raccoons and squirrels, they're all coming to the side of the road. And then these guys, while they're not the smartest birds in the world, they are smart enough to have learned that if they hang out on the power lines, then their food is right there for them and they don't have to go looking for it. So the solution that you can do, the one thing that you can do to prevent these guys and any other animal from getting hit by cars is to not litter. It's extremely important that we keep the sides of our roads clean so that we can drive on them and so that the animals are not coming to the side of the road and getting hit. So that's why she's with us. Now, as for what she eats, I kind of hinted to this. These guys are opportunistic generalists is what you would read in a biology or ecology book of what they're officially called. What that means is opportunistic means that they will just take any opportunity to basically eat whatever they can find, and a generalist means that they have a wide range of food items that they will eat, and they're not very specific. So there are birds like snail kites, for example, where all they eat is snails. These guys are the opposite. They'll eat pretty much anything and they'll take any opportunity they find to eat it. So they will eat, like I said, really anything, but the main form of their food that they really like is mammals. They will eat anything that weighs up to about 12 pounds. And their favorite mammals, probably squirrels. They're really big squirrel predators. But they will eat anything as large as skunks or raccoons, and they also really enjoy eating, like, chipmunks, mice, rats, the standard rodents that you think of. So that's really their favorite food, is mammals, but like I said, they will eat pretty much anything. And I also was talking about how it's so important that they have their really good eyesight. That's how these guys hunt. So they have really, really incredible eyesight. They have such amazing eyesight that ours is nothing compared to their eyes. They can see more colors than we can. They can see into the ultraviolet spectrum. So when a mouse, for example, is running across the ground, it is urinating as it's running, and that urine glows under a black light, and so they can see that all the time. They see into the ultraviolet spectrum. And they have such amazing eyesight that if they were at the top of a 60-foot tree, they'd be able to see every hair on an ant's body at the bottom of that tree. That's how incredible their eyesight is. And that's why they're such effective hunters of all of those little mammals, even when they're really high up in trees. So that about covers it for her injury and their eyes and about what they eat.
All right, so now that we've learned a little bit about red-tailed hawks, next up we're going to actually get to see our red-tailed hawk flying for her food. Emily's going to talk a little bit about why we do that, and then you're going to get to see a couple of different flights that she's done. So one of them is going to be in her enclosure, and then the other ones are going to be outside, where she is going to be attached to a creance line, which is just a really long line that prevents her from flying away, since we don't have any sort of way to get her back if she were to fly off into the trees. It's just a security measure that lets her fly freely without actually flying away. Enjoy!
We fly these birds for several reasons. One, they're birds, so we like them to get some flight time. Two, it's enrichment and mental stimulation for them. And three, it gives them a routine and practice for when we fly them at actual programs. So those are the reasons that we're doing this. Now, I just want you to know that when I go inside the mute and you're going to see the video of her flying, I will not be speaking to the camera because that's not part of her routine. I will be speaking only to her, and I will be saying, hup, because that is the word that she responds to, and she knows that it's time for her to fly to the glove. Hup.
again. I'm out here on our treetop nature trail, which is an elevated boardwalk that we have inside of the state park and where a number of our permanent resident education ambassadors live at. That includes hawks, owls, and of course, our wonderful vultures. Let's go meet them. So in Alabama, we have two species of vultures, black vultures and turkey vultures. And here is Logan and Princess. Say hello, Princess. So these vultures definitely don't look the same. We have a regular turkey vulture look up here, and a little more interested in us, we have Princess, our albino turkey vulture. So what does it mean that she's an albino? It's a genetic mutation where she cannot produce the dark coloration, the melanin in her feathers the same way that Logan can. And that's really her biggest issue. She's been here with us since 1994. So one of our oldest birds that live here. Logan's been here since 2003. But coming in, even as an adult, with those white feathers, let us know that we were not going to be able to release her into the wild. She stands out. That can be a very dangerous thing, to stand out in nature. It also means that her flock did not see her as necessarily the same and chose to not stick around her. And so when she was found, she was without friends. And vultures are a flock species. They choose to hang together, and it's very important to them to have their friends both in the wild and here in captivity with us. And as you can see, Princess is very inquisitive, having lived here as long as she has. She's a bird that likes to play. Vultures are very, very inquisitive animals. You can see their toys on the enclosure side there. They're a species that want to play, want to have fun. They're actually much smarter than a lot of the other raptors that we deal with. And also, some of our most valuable in nature, because this bird loves to eat things that have already passed away or in the process of dying. Now, they will hunt for certain things like maybe a lizard, frog or something like that. Maybe even a mouse, but most often they're going after those things that have already passed. And that's great for us because they're nature's garbage disposal. They're cleaning up all that mess that is littering our roadsides. It's important for us because if they didn't, then we would be left with all of that stuff building up bacteria, things that are really bad for our other wildlife. So all of those infections and things would spread at a much higher rate. And then once it's in them, it's not long before it actually makes its way to humans. And then we are also dealing with an increase in viral diseases, bacterial diseases. And so they're really awesome to have around. You can even see on her legs while she's playing with my hat, that white. The white on the normal pink legs is actually their defecation. That's the number 1 and 2 that Princess has put down her legs, and on purpose, because their poop is actually cleaner than what they usually step in. And so it's a little bit of protection for them on these nice warm days in the summer. They can also keep their legs cool, and so they purposefully do it for that reason as well. Now you may ask yourself, just how important is a vulture? They say over the span of a vulture's life, like Princess's, they can clean up about $10,000 worth of nasty natural things that we otherwise as humans would have to deal with, and that would not be any fun. So next time you see a vulture, appreciate them, even with their bald head that some people may say is not the cutest look. Disregard that. They're very awesome species, and we're very lucky to have them. Come visit her out in the state park. Here's a few more of our feathered friends. Stan and Ollie, our black vultures. As you can see, Stan's down there and he's a little more shy. Ollie's hanging out up there. And they look very similar in a lot of respects to the turkey vultures that you just met. That's an excited vulture. Very inquisitive species, like we mentioned with the turkey vultures. They need toys in their enclosure, and they need stimulation, interaction with each other. They even enjoy it from their caretakers, us all that get to work with them here at the center. See Stan creeping a little bit behind me. Instead of having the big pink head like we saw on our turkey vultures, they have a black head, And if we got a good look at the underside of their wings, these guys only have little white handprints at the end instead of a full running section of white like you would find in our turkey vultures. And I don't know if you heard that little grunt from Stan, but that's really about all of the vocalizations that they make. So Stan's issue, just like Logan that we met earlier, is his flight. He was found being chased by dogs, and unfortunately it was caused by humans because he was shot with birdshot in his wing. Ollie, on the other hand, fully flighted, but has been here with us the longest of any of our birds. He came here in the winter of 1993 as a baby with a blind eye and severely emaciated, which just means he was very thin. He was not thriving in the wild, and so he became one of our first permanent residents here at the center. I hope you've enjoyed getting to meet the vultures, learn a little bit about them, how cool they are, and how important they are for us in nature.
Thank you again for having us for your Tails and Tales program. We hope you enjoyed meeting some of our feathered friends. And remember, next time you are in Oak Mountain State Park, come by the Alabama Wildlife Center and visit us.